You're listening to the Gambling Gauchos, part of the Stake in the Plains Content Network, and the Dave Campbell's Republic of Football podcast feed. Just a couple of casino caballeros talking Texas Tech, betting on the Big 12 and beyond. Now, here's Kyle Jacobson and Rob Bro, live from the Cardinal Sports Center studio.
Welcome to the Gambling Gauchos. I'm Rob Bro. He's Kyle Jacobson, live from the Cardinal Sports Center studio. If you need to gear up for the presumed blackout against Kansas State next weekend, you can do so at Cardinals. Get you a black t-shirt with Texas Tech on it. Get you a black Gambling Gauchos t-shirt. Wear that to the game. As long as it's black, wear it to the game. It's going to be a great time, especially after a win, coming off the win over Baylor. You can go to Cardinals live and in person right outside the Loop on Slide Road or online, mycardinalsports.com. You know what else is black? Those quarter zips, Kyle. The quarter zips are black. Get you a quarter zip for the Kansas State game.
I am predicting now that my game day outfit will be black Gambling Gauchos quarter zip, maybe black Gambling Gauchos hat. That's a lot of Gauchos gear. Usually I do one Gauchos piece, one Tech piece, but we'll see.
Get you a black hat. You can get you a black Texas Tech hat at Cardinals.
That's right. I think I already own like 3 black Texas Tech hats from Cardinals, but maybe I need another.
Right off the bat, we've got 2 questions here on the comment section here on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. What should Big Hen get for dinner? You have any thoughts on Big Hen's dinner?
Big Hen is kind of like the opposite of the Chick-fil-A cows. They're trying to encourage people to not eat beef. I feel like I can't recommend chicken for Big Hen, so maybe some pork chops or a ground beef dish if he wants to do spaghetti or tacos or something.
And then should have worn a Heinz ketchup shirt last night against Waco. How was the yellow in person? We'll talk more about the atmosphere and everything else, but those yellow jerseys, what was the feeling there?
They were hideous. The problem is their school colors are green and gold, which is a good color combo in my opinion, but they wear like Cheese Whiz yellow. I mean, it's terrible.
Yeah.
And I wasn't a huge fan of like the chrome gold either. It was like, just wear your RG3 gold and dark green. Like that's a good color combo.
I was thinking that last night. If I graduated from Baylor in 2010 and I had to sit through this crap that they put on the field now, color wise, I couldn't handle it. It's the Baylor line shirts are terrible. The bright yellow is just a terrible school color in college.
And I guess the Baylor line, that's tradition and it pops. Like their student section is very visible on TV. But the other thing that I thought was hilarious was Baylor announces they have 8 home games. They announce all the uniforms in advance and they scheme like, okay, the white out, the green out, the yellow out, the stripe out, whatever. This was their gold out. And people were wearing gold because it's a school color, but not any more than what you would normally expect if there was no coordinated color scheme. It was like nobody got the memo. There was just as much green or like, oh, I'm wearing a black jacket because it's kind of chilly. Like you would have never guessed, other than the student section, that it was a gold out.
Big Hen says he's made both a ground beef dish and pork chops today on the Blackstone. So you're right in the wheelhouse there.
I'm vibing with Big Hen. That's what, best friends are on the same wavelength like that. So it's just how it is.
I'm about to eat a pork chop too, if the Raiders can pull it out.
Yeah, the high today was only in the 80s, and so to stay warm, we're having chicken tortilla soup for dinner.
Cole will be happy.
Yes.
Do the students always wear gold? Yes, they always wear the yellow shirts. Yeah. I think it'd be cool if the Tech students always wore red, but I always want everyone to wear red at the game. That's just differentiate yourself.
Some people gripe about that when there's a blackout and the Saddle Tramps are just this huge red block. And I kind of get it. It's a semi-legitimate gripe. Like, surely they have a black polo they can wear. Maybe not.
They've worn red for 50 years. We're going to keep wearing red. All right. We're just kind of chit-chatting here. We got things to do. What a game last night. We talked about the rest of the Big 12 on Gauchos After Dark. You can find that on the Twitter feed at Gambling Gauchos. Shout out to Barnett, Howard, and Williams. But the most dominant Big 12 win this week was Texas Tech over Baylor. And it was great to see.
Off the top of my dome, I think 3 teams in the Big 12 have a road win by 25 points or more. Texas, Oklahoma, and Texas Tech.
Just the top 3 in the Big 12, man. The top 3 big dogs.
Was the Oklahoma-Iowa State game, was that in Ames?
No, that was in Norman.
Okay, then maybe it's just Texas and Texas Tech, both over Baylor, by the way. So maybe that's actually the nugget there. Not that Texas and Texas Tech are so great, but Baylor can't defend their home turf.
How was the home turf? You almost got in a fight. If you want to go over that again, you can, or you can just direct people to the Gauchos After Dark where you told the story.
Yeah,
how was the atmosphere?
Yeah, I would say, like most places, 90% of the fans you run into are cool. We ran into some that wanted to fight us for, like, really just wanted to stand there and crack a beer with them. I thought it was kind of crazy, and like it's a rivalry, it's an in-state rivalry, and like I would kind of get that if it was like Texas OU or like the Iron Bowl, like maybe you're not so friendly to the opposing fans. There's like these 2 50-something-year-old guys that like didn't want us to have a beer, and we were with a Baylor fan. Like that's the funny part. Like we walked up as kind of like a mixed group, and like nothing was said, or we were just like wearing Tech gear, and they like were physically blocking us from accessing their tailgate. It was hilarious. Went back after the game to see if they enjoyed it, and all their stuff was packed up and gone. So they must have been part of the wave that left in the third quarter. I will say that was my first game at McLean Stadium. I had been before, but not during a game. Baylor does such a good job of making a stadium that seats 45,000 people look like it's twice as big as Texas Tech's, because they build it so tall, and you just like break off the sections into like upper deck, and there's really not that many people there, but it looks big on TV. I would say it was not like an energetic or raucous atmosphere. Very tame, but a nice facility. Like I really do like their stadium, and it's cool, like being right by the river there. But yeah, not a very like loud or like tough place to play. It's a nice stadium, but not a tough place to play.
Fair enough.
So
it didn't seem like a tough place to play last night, though. I will say last year the Jones didn't seem like a tough place to play for Baylor. That seemingly was on the bulletin board all summer, all off season. Do you think that game? I asked you this last week after the Houston game. Is that offensive game plan replicatable? Now you've done it kind of twice. Is it replicatable against Kansas State? Is it replicatable against BYU on the road? Like, is this just the team we are now? Taj Brooks is going to run for 40 times a game and kind of see what else can happen?
I'll answer it this way. If it's not replicatable on a game-to-game basis, week in and week out, there's nothing you could do instead that would be more likely to succeed. And so I think you still, if this doesn't work one week, you still go down swinging with it, because I think, for all my griping and whining on here that we don't have an identity, I think we have one now. I wish we had discovered it a little bit sooner, but we have it now. And so do what works. Like, why on earth at this point would you go back and say, okay, we've got 4 straight games with our lead back having 100+ rush yards, and we've got a quarterback that might be still nursing a shoulder injury. Like, why would we game plan to, okay, game script, first 8 plays, we're going to throw it 6 times. Why on earth would we go back now? So I say stick with it. I can't guarantee it will work every single week, but I don't think there's something else you could do that is more likely to succeed either.
Agreed. Oliver says, went to McLean for the first time with the Going Band, and people kept telling us how loud we were. Love to make McLean into a semi-home game. Joey also tweeted about that today, about how the Going Band was so awesome. Did you feel the Going Band power when you were there?
Yeah, I was on the opposite side of the stadium. Like, they were in one end zone, I was in the other end zone. But yeah, the section designated for Tech and the band was totally full. It was really loud. It was on our sideline, which I thought was cool. I guess that's sort of a double-edged sword. Like, you put it on the Baylor sideline to get them further away from the Tech crowd. There's some gamesmanship there, but then also they can maybe make things louder on your sideline, which you don't want. But yeah, like, I would say that the stadium was 85% full. It wasn't like a full-on sellout, but it was mostly full. There wasn't like a ton of empty seats that I noticed. And I would say we had maybe 15 to 20% of the fans there. So not a full-on takeover like we've seen at some basketball games or stuff like that. But we had a good presence and they were loud. I think that's just like part of each fan base's culture. Like, Baylor, I'm not saying this is like a bad thing, but they have a lot of kind of like older fans that just don't clap or scream or anything. Like, they're just kind of there to observe the football game, and that's fine. And then they kind of get annoyed with you if your team gets a fourth down stop or scores a touchdown, and they kind of act like you're being offensive just by cheering for your team, like not saying anything about the other team, not saying anything vulgar. This guy tried to like wave us off when we were celebrating after a touchdown. We're like, "Is this your first time watching a football game? Like, this is how it goes."
Yeah.
But again, like 90% of them were really cool, really nice. We were at the bars before the game and walking out of the stadium, no issues or anything. So overall, nothing bad to say about Baylor fans.
All right, let's get into the box score here. First drive for Texas Tech, an 11-play, 70-plus yard masterpiece. Taj Cameron Valdez, Baron Morton caps it off with a back shoulder throw to Coy Aiken. Just a masterful start to the game. Great game script. And the second straight week, you start off with a touchdown on your opening drive.
We had 3 grown-ass man drives in this game, and this was the first one. I think a lot of our road struggles under McGuire kind of stem from slow starts, like even TCU last year. I think by drive 2 or 3, you kind of figured it out and scored your first touchdown, but the first drive was a disaster. It was like almost interception, 3 and out, punt the ball, and Darius Davis houses it. It was like 7-0 before you can blink. But this wasn't that. Like, we clearly had a good game plan, a good game script. I was kind of nervous to get the ball first. I like to defer, but we lost the coin toss, and I was like, well, okay, we're going to get the ball first, and just kind of dreading like going 3 and out or whatever. And instead, we just shoved a healthy dose of Taj Brooks right down their throat and passed when we needed to. Like, okay, 3rd and 5. Now we'll flip it out to Miles Price. And then I think I don't know if it was 3rd and goal or 3rd and some yards to gain, and we throw another beautiful back shoulder to Aiken. This time he comes down with it. Thought it was perfect. It was like, we're going to run. We're going to make you stop it. And then when they kind of semi-stop it and put us in passing downs, we executed those. And 7-0 out of the gates like that on the road, I thought was huge. Like, I would have not expected that to happen, and I thought that was kind of a moment that demonstrates we're growing up a little bit. We're taking the next step. So I loved seeing us come out of the gates like that.
With a 4th down conversion in the middle of it. That will be something we talk about moving forward here, especially on the next drive, where Baylor goes 7 plays, 33 yards. And on 4th and 1, they have a pass incomplete to the running back, Dominic Richardson. After a sack, just a bunch of trouble there for Baylor on their opening drive. They did not look cohesive. Richard Reese, a couple of runs. And that was after a couple of complete passes to get him down to midfield. Turnover on downs early for Baylor, which seemingly was a common occurrence for Baylor that game.
Yeah, they had a screen pass go for about 25 yards later in the game. They had the 71-yard touchdown on, I don't know if I would call it a busted coverage, or like a bad angle from Rabbit. Besides those 2 plays, the only thing they did that worked was kind of intermediate pass game, 8 to 12, 10 to 15 yards. And we said it all week, like, hey, their red zone offense is terrible. Let them nickel and dime you down the field and then make them earn some points. Don't give up the big play. And so I think you kind of played into that. I said, y'all are going to have to score in 7, 8, 9, 10 plays in order to beat us. And that's just not something that Baylor has been good at executing. And so, yeah, it was a common theme. You had some big 3rd down and 4th down stops. This was the first one of the game. And again, felt like you had all the momentum out of the gates. And I think there's been a semi-trend with Texas Tech that when you finally have one side of the ball playing well is when the other side kind of falls off, and then vice versa. So it's good to see, that old kind of cliche complementary football, that your offense executes really well out of the gate and then your defense executes really well out of the gate at the same time. So that was really nice to see.
Yeah, this is the first time you've seen that on the road in the McGuire era. You saw it last year, I would say West Virginia, and then in the bowl game, obviously. Those are probably your three most complete games under Joey McGuire, two of them with Baron Morton at quarterback. Coincidence? Probably so. Let's keep going here. Turnover on downs. You punt it right back. They punt it back to you. 18 yards total between the two offenses. And then you have another touchdown drive. Heavy dose of Taj Brooks, his longest of the drive, 24 yards. Ends on a picture-perfect, what Ryan Leaf would call an air raid ball to Raider Cup, in the corner of the end zone.
Raider Cup, I love that. For those who didn't see after the game, I guess in a post-game press conference interview, McGuire said that this week they were calling Baylor Cup Raider Cup during Baylor game week. So what I love to see is earlier in that drive, it was 3rd and 4. And until about, 8 days ago, I would have guessed on like 95% of 3rd and 4s that we're going to throw the ball. And instead we run it, and it's successful. And I said that to you earlier when I was venting after one of those losses that, like, clearly we're not a team that believes we can push the defensive line for 3 yards to run it when we need to. And I think the thinking on that has shifted. Clearly it has, because it was 3rd and 4. The drive is on the line, and we're like, yeah, we're going to run it. And we do, and it's successful. What I also love, not just the execution of that throw to Cup, I thought the ball was placed really well. The defensive back probably could have made a play on it. He maybe could have put it like further on his outside shoulder, but 6 points is 6 points. But Morton checked out of something into that play, and I think McGuire even confirmed that. He said, yeah, we changed the play at the line. So that was supposed to be part of the, not knock on Morton, but the reason why Shuck was starting was he's so much older, he's so much more experienced. He knows the offense better. He's going to get us into the right looks. And, the younger guys might be turnover prone. And Morton, for the most part, has protected the ball. And at least in that moment, a big moment, checks us into the right play, makes the throw. And so, I'm not seeing the downside of playing the younger quarterback yet. Maybe that will rear its ugly head later in the season. I hope it doesn't. But I thought that was kind of a big boy moment for a sophomore making his, 5th or 6th career start, to go, you know what, I got to look here. I'm going to use my liberty at the line of scrimmage to call an audible and get us into a play that ultimately goes for 6. So I thought that was big.
Absolutely. By the way, check into the Rangers game. Josh Young double, top of the 9th. No outs. Youngle Cat. So it's 14-0 here on this drive chart. Then you have another 3-and-out, gained 1 yard. 1 yard for Baylor. Then you give it right back on a fumble. Taj Brooks. This was just a perfect hit. I don't fault Taj Brooks on this fumble whatsoever. I mean, it was a fumble. It was Taj Brooks' fault technically, but that was just kind of a fluke hit right on the ball with the helmet right there.
Yeah, it didn't look like he had bad ball security or anything. Sometimes they just get a hat on the ball and it happens. It was funny, though, when that happened, I was sitting with our friend Jonesy, a parlay picador, and I was like, I can't remember Taj ever fumbling before. Like this year, last year, I'm sure that wasn't his first career fumble. I'm just blanking on when it has happened before. He had one, I think, against Kansas State last year, now that I think on it. But anyway, I was like, the thought hadn't crossed my mind that it was a possibility that he could fumble the ball. That's how highly I think of him. It was almost a borderline shocking moment. I was like, oh, damn, we just turned the ball over by running it. I didn't think that was a possibility. And the crappy part is, he had the first down, too. We were about to move the chains and keep that drive going in Baylor territory. Just a good play by Baylor. I think Taj was able to shake it off based on how he played the rest of the evening. So in the end, not a huge deal. kind of deflating in the moment, but at least we were committed to the run. Like I've said that a million times on here. I just want to see a drive where we run it 3 or 4 times in a row, see what happens. It didn't go well for you on that set of downs, but I'm just thrilled that we're open to doing that.
The rest of the first half was a couple of punts, another fumble, a sack fumble from Steve Linton on Blake Shapen. I don't think you scored on that possession, but coming back, you do get a field goal after they do. Ends the half 17-3. It felt like 31-0, but it was 17-3 at half. Up front, you absolutely dominated the first half. Without the Taj Brooks fumble, you probably score again. It felt like utter domination. I don't know if that's hyperbole or not, but it really did feel like you just controlled the line of scrimmage, controlled everything. You know, they hadn't had any big plays yet. So, to me, utter domination in the first half, Texas Tech over Baylor, only 17-3.
I would agree. I mean, they got into the red zone once, but you held them to 3 points, I think. Let me double check that. They might have, I think they only got into the red zone that one time. I'll nitpick here. They did hit 2 big wheel routes. The first one was to Dabney. The second one, I can't remember if it was to Baldwin or somebody else. Maybe it was Neighbors. But both of them, it looked like they had Pierre isolated in coverage against a guy that he's maybe mismatched against. Against a team like Kansas State that has a really good tight end and Ben Sinnott and that throws to their backs a lot, that's something we're going to have to, I think, work out in practice this week. Or else we could find ourselves vulnerable to similar schemes on Saturday. But yeah, what I loved was it wasn't just kind of focused in on one defensive player. It was like everybody's making plays. I thought Lux was really physical. He broke up a couple passes. Might have gotten away with PI on 2 separate occasions, but, that's a judgment call, and the refs didn't call it.
Yeah.
Rashad Williams had a pass breakup on 4th down. The youth on the defense, like Ben Roberts was your leading tackler again. Charles Esters is in the backfield. Duda Banks is in the backfield. Steve Linton, not a young guy, but he finally kind of burst onto the scene. And so it was like, hey, we've got guys everywhere on defense that are making plays. Like this isn't just one position group or one guy kind of dominating his matchup. And to me, that's a good sign. Like that tells me you've got 11 on 11 covered there. And it really doesn't matter what they do. We're sort of one step ahead, barring a couple of those big intermediate plays that Baylor did hit on. But yeah, 17-3, and feeling like, okay, we turned the ball over once in Baylor territory. We could probably have an even bigger lead right now, and settling for a field goal. But yeah, I thought it was exactly what I wanted to see from the defense because I didn't think Baylor had a super capable offense. I hedged a little bit by noting that they were a lot better with Shapen than they were when Sawyer Robertson was filling in due to injury. But yeah, like you stuffed the run, and I felt like anything that happened after that was, okay, let him get whatever. But if you're stopping the run to that extent, giving up 2 yards per carry or whatever, everything else is going to fall into place for you, and it was.
2 plays I wanted to talk about. The Drain Bradley pass interference, was that pass interference in your eyes?
I think so. I think if it had just been hand fighting, but it looked like he kind of did the like grab I think we call that like the dish rag or something. But he kind of like pulled him, used his momentum against him, pulled him forward. And so on rewatch, I thought it's probably an okay call.
I feel like the guy slipped, but there was a pretty good pull.
Yeah.
So I understood the call. I didn't agree with it.
I think had it just been the hand fighting, it would have been fine, but it looked like he kind of pulled him forward to the ground.
Yeah. Then the Cameron Valdez after the Xavier White 4th down opportunity. I don't remember what drive this was in. Sorry, the Xavier White 3rd down. Was that in the first half or was that later in the game?
Let me look here. I've got it in my notes. It was in the first. It was the last drive of the first half.
That's what I thought. Ended on the field goal.
Oh, before the field goal, yeah. So we got the ball back. He kicked the field goal on an additional drive, but second to last drive of the first half.
Yeah.
So first off, Xavier White caught the ball past the sticks with forward progress. It should have been a first down.
Yes, but you tempoed.
They rule it 4th and 1. I hated tempo. It's like, you have all your timeouts left, or at least 2 of them. And if you tempo, it's one of those deals. If it works, if you tempo them and you catch them out of position, you convert, great. But if you tempo 4th and 1, when like they haven't stuffed you all night, just go slow, like sub out Valdez for Taj, bring an extra tight end. And I don't remember what personnel we had. It was like, hey, they haven't stuffed you for less than a yard, like pretty much all night. And so I just, as it was happening, I was like, I don't like tempo here. And then, kind of worst case scenario came to fruition. So anyway, I referenced a couple of PI calls on Lux that they missed. They missed that. We'll call it even Stevens, but yeah. I think Xavier White got the first down.
So did I, and I thought it was weird. You just kind of forced tempo in that. You didn't really go tempo a ton in the game, but in that moment, it just felt weird to me. I know they like to do that. We want to go fast. I remember all of the sayings and stuff we heard all offseason, but I didn't like it there just because you probably could have drawn a review out of that if you just slowed down. Though I was surprised, Baylor's defensive line seemed like it was standing around, so I thought you caught him off guard. But Cameron just did not get the first down. Well, he got it, and then they reviewed it and said he did get it, which I didn't think he did.
Again, just sub out. If you're worried about the slow sub and Baylor running 25 seconds off the clock, then use one of your timeouts.
Yeah.
If you need to draw up something more creative than handing it off to Taj on 4th and 1, which I don't think you do, but go look at the picture we tweeted on Sunday afternoon of a play where Taj hits the line of scrimmage. He's in a mosh pit with like 15 guys from both Tech and Baylor. There's no visible path forward for him, and he gets 11 yards on that carry. So like 4th and 1, just. Even if everybody knows what you're going to do, just do it.
Yeah.
I just got this text, a little bit off topic. Patrick Mahomes has now defeated every team in the NFL except the Chiefs, including regular season and playoffs. He's the 10th different starting quarterback to defeat 31 different NFL franchises and the first to do it before the age of 30. And he's only like, 28-ish?
I think that's right.
27, 20. He might turn 28 this year. So room to spare. And he's never going to beat the Chiefs unless he, pulls a Tom Brady at the end of his career.
He's going to go to the Cowboys at the end.
You think so?
Yeah, I hope so.
I think he's actually a future Viking, unfortunately.
No.
Yeah.
No. Rangers update. Josh Young did score. I don't know how. It is the bottom of the 9th inning, 11-5, 1 out. Let's go to the second half. First drive in the second half, turnover on downs for Baylor. And it was just ugly. I mean, ugly. And then it was a Blake Shapen tush push that couldn't get anything going. I don't even think he got the snap. I think this is the one where he fumbled the snap. Just an absolute domination. And again, Texas Tech's defense, except for about 3 plays, looked really, really good.
Yeah, that was one of the most stuffed quarterback sneak attempts I've ever seen. And part of it was because he mishandled the snap. But yeah, we talk all the time. Just do the tush push or the brotherly shove. Have you seen that?
Yeah, that's what they're calling it now.
That's like a 99% success rate on 4th and 1, and you were able to stop it. Tony Bradford I think he might have aided in the bobbled snap there. So we played that really well. And another just kind of demoralizing play for Baylor. They had both demoralizing plays and demoralizing series. They had an 8-play drive and 2 10-play drives that combined on those 3 drives, they got 0 points.
Beautiful.
And again, that's exactly like where you want them. Let them move the ball up and down the field. They're not bad in terms of yardage when you look at all these stats, but they just can't score points. And that was another one of those moments. It's like, okay, they can maybe kind of claw back in this if they can move the sticks, punch it in on this drive, and instead they're getting stuffed on 4th and 1. And you love to see it as a Tech fan.
Yeah. All right, what do you do after a turnover, Kyle? You throw it down the field. Didn't work.
Yeah, I thought that was really Morton's only bad throw of the night. Not a terrible read. I mean, it's basically one-on-one. I think he just underthrew it. He could have put that in a spot where, worst case scenario, it sails out of bounds or maybe gives Aiken a chance to catch it. So that kind of sucked, a one-play drive. And it's the second time we've done that this year. We did it against Oregon as well. Again, feels a little bit unnecessary, like as well as you're running it. Just get the ball back, start winding the clock by running it on first down, and then go from there. The shot will still be on second down if you really want to take it. So I felt like we were kind of screwing around a little bit, and it's just the battered Tech fan in me, like, okay, here comes the collapse, here comes the momentum shift. And so I wish you could have capitalized a little bit better with your first possession of the second half. Ultimately, not a big deal, but maybe something they look at going forward on those change of possessions, like kind of how they strategize the first play call out of the gates after those.
You talked about battered Tech fan syndrome. I was absolutely feeling it. It was going to be a drive for Baylor. I just knew it. And this is the 10-play drive you were talking about where they didn't get anything in the end zone. A 10-play turnover on downs with a 4th and 6 stop after they just absolutely marched it down the field. And third and 6, 4th and 6 were the only two bad plays on the drive, and they couldn't get anything going. This is the game. Then you had a 13-play touchdown drive to ice it. I thought it was over after that.
Yeah, this is grown-ass man drive number 2.
Yeah.
And to rewind a little bit within the drive, it's 3rd and 5, and you motion a bunch of guys down to the bottom of the formation. You have I think it was an empty set, and so you've got 4 receivers in that diamond formation down at the bottom, and Aiken is all alone. A guy who just caught his first career touchdown pass earlier in the game. He's in one-on-one coverage. I think unless you're going to go quarterback draw, the ball pretty much has to go there. He runs a 5-yard slant. We throw it pretty low. He makes a good catch. That's a tough throw. It's an underrated throw and catch in terms of the difficulty because the timing has to be great. If you put that behind him at all, it has no chance. And you've got to get it to him early enough before he kind of runs the route into the heart of the defense. We convert that. If we don't, it's 3 and out. And you're letting Baylor hang in it. And instead, you parlay that into a 13-play, 85-yard drive that takes up 6.5 minutes off the clock to make it 24-3, I think. And I don't think the game's totally out of hand yet based on how Baylor responds. But after you do that, you're like, okay, we're back. Not going to be a second-half drop-off. Feeling really good at that point. Based on Baylor's inability to move the ball, it's okay, it's hard to see them scoring 3 times without us scoring again. You never say never. I wasn't ready to say game over, curtains, but it felt like you were 90% of the way home.
Yeah, and it ended on a beautiful play-action pass that we've been begging for Baylor Cup. Play action at the tight end. It's always open.
It was like my not my magnum opus because I'm not calling plays or running plays, but just what I'm envisioning in my head. This is a dream come true. So I don't remember the down and distance even. Doesn't really matter. But Baylor has 8 dudes in the box. They've got 5 down linemen, 3 linebackers all crowding the box. All 8 of them are coming.
Yeah.
Why are they coming? Because you give them the tackle and guard double pull look, the counter look that you've run all game long with tremendous success, by the way. You suck in 8 guys to play the run, and nobody's covering Raider Cup, excuse me. And at that point, they're just playing catch. And they might as well be throwing on air, doing a drill. He's wide open. And that's what we've been saying all along. You're not going to get 8 guys to suck up into the box to play the run like that unless you successfully run the ball enough times earlier in the game. It's this is what we've been begging and pleading for.
Yes.
It was 10 out of 10, no notes, chef's kisses, whatever you want to say. It was just perfect. And that's why so a comment was made by the color commentary guys that you don't lose games on Saturday. You lose them on Tuesday and Wednesday in preparation. That play wasn't successful because of that play. It was successful because you ran it 35 times before that. I'm probably exaggerating a little bit, but like that play is open because of what you did in the first quarter, the second quarter, the third quarter. It all led up to that. And that's what we've been clamoring for all season. So I thought that was perfect play calling, perfect execution. It's what we've been waiting for. I was thrilled.
Yeah. You alluded to it. The next drive, a 76-yard touchdown on what should have been a 3-and-out. I think I know what happened here. I think the two guys up close to Monterey Baldwin collapsed on the 5-yard route. Nobody went with Baldwin. And then Rabbit has to come from his deep zone to come over there, and he just has no chance. And Baldwin, newsflash, is fast.
He is. He's exactly the profile of guy that. You okay?
3-run home run.
What's the score now?
11-8.
Okay, we're fine. We're fine.
Leclerc is in.
Okay. Is it the 9th?
1 out, bottom of the 9th.
Okay, we're good. We're good. We can trade 2 more runs for 2 more outs. We're fine.
Aaron Hicks.
Monterey Baldwin is the exact kind of speed profile guy that they're trying to get, that Joey McGuire, James Blanchard, Brian Nance, unfortunately recruited to Baylor until 2021. And kind of speed that you're looking for now, bringing in with all these receivers, DBs, linebackers that can absolutely move. So it's only a matter of time, I think, before you have your own version of Monterey Baldwin. He's really good. I think Rabbit took a kind of poor angle. Live, I thought he'd undercut it so well that like he was about to pick it off, but Chapin just got it over his head. And maybe with a different angle, he can break that up or maybe even intercept it. Worst case scenario, he should be able to tackle Baldwin with a better angle and not let them house that. But that was their only touchdown of the night. And it came exactly how pretty much the only way you can surrender to Baylor is giving up a big play, because they were just not going to do it themselves in the red zone. So that was kind of disappointing, but we're nitpicking. You know, it's a 25-point win, and 90% of the night the defense was playing A football. So not going to gripe too much about that.
24-10. You just got punched in the mouth. And what does Texas Tech do, Kyle?
Well, it was 24-11 because they went for 2.
24-11, sorry.
And same deal. I was thinking, okay, a little bit of a momentum shift here. Baylor might be clawing back into it. You need to respond. And what do? Grown-ass man drive number 3, which we'll recap after a word from our friends over at Reno Barbecue.
Reno Barbecue. Oh, you want me to go?
Yeah, sure.
Reno Barbecue. It is in Alton, Texas, 7th Street. Oh, my goodness. Sorry. At the wall. Evan Carter finally makes a play.
We're good.
You know what else makes plays? Reno Barbecue. They are open 7 days a week with the market. You can go in, get some sausage or whatever else you need, a chicken salad sandwich there at the market. Or you can go Wednesday through Saturday in the restaurant area, Tuesday through Saturday, and get you some Reno Barbecue, a black plate special. They've had chicken fried steaks. They did a peachy pig baked potato. They have done a lot of specials. It's not just $50 plates of barbecue. You can go and get you a deal. Lots of our parlay picadors have been to Reno lately. We're getting some great pictures. Where else do they have great pictures? On Instagram. You can follow them, RenoBBQ.com. Order online to make sure they have it for you when you get there. RenoBBQ.com.
So it's 24-11. And again, the battered Tech fan in me is going, oh no. You know, like one of two things can happen here. We respond, or like we go 3 and out, and maybe the stadium gets some life. Baylor starts believing, they score again, and then we're in the danger zone.
After last week, you definitely think that.
Yeah.
They're a second half team.
Yeah. And even I think that I guess it was an analytics deal to go for 2 there. Even with a field goal, still a 2-touchdown game if they convert their 2-point conversion. So I was like, hey, there's only one result here where we don't give them the ball back with it being a 2-possession game. That's if we score a touchdown. What do we do? 8 plays, 65 yards, 4 minutes, 19 seconds off the clock. Grown-ass man drive. And I was like, okay, we grew up a lot tonight. Like the game wasn't super in the balance. The outcome was never super in question. there's a few moments where you kind of got counterpunched a little bit, and instead of folding or collapsing or having some terrible sequence of events, you just like, okay, let's roll. And you just kept scoring, stopping, and never let them get closer than that 24-11, and then just put it away. So again, thought it was really, especially with a younger quarterback, less experience than what we had. I'm like, okay, are we ready for this moment? Can we do it? Can we stay disciplined with play calling and run the ball and everything? And we did. So I'm watching that live, and I'm like, okay, we had 3 absolutely huge drives tonight that we had to have. And it was actually going back to that complimentary football deal. It was the offense pulling away. For so long as Tech fans were like, hey, if the defense can just hold on, like just keep them under 40 or just get one stop in the second half and we can win this game. This was, the defense played great and wound up not really surrendering a lot anyway, but it was the offense that kept capitalizing to pull away and really put the game away. So I thought that was a welcome kind of change of pace for us.
Yeah, you certainly could have won this game 20-17 or whatever a final could have been. But your offense just didn't stop. And I love that it was Taj Brooks for 18 yards for the touchdown, and then Taj Brooks for the 2-point conversion. You went right back after him to get that certain lead back. It was just a masterclass on that drive, in my opinion.
I love that 2-point call, by the way.
Yeah.
The fake reverse action.
It would have been beautiful in Laramie.
Yeah.
By the way, on their 2-point conversion, you did the exact same thing. You blitzed Rabbit, didn't get home, and they threw the same play.
And I don't know why, because, again, you didn't blitz all night, and you didn't have to. You kept getting home with 4 guys. So I don't know.
That's just their call, I guess.
And you even got a do-over because of the offsetting penalties.
Yeah.
If you count Laramie and that do-over, we're like 0 for 3 defending. It's kind of concerning if we're in a tight game again down the stretch here. A moment that I thought was funny, where, again, I was like wondering if I was surrounded by people watching their first football game ever, was when they called those offsetting penalties and the ref announced that we're going to replay the down. The entire stadium groaned. They're like, oh! It's like, what did you think was going to happen there? Like, there's a 5-yard penalty on the offense, 5-yard penalty on the defense. Like, the play doesn't stand. Like, we're lining up again and doing this all over. So I thought that was where I was like, do y'all know the rules of the game?
Let's see. Let's get through the rest of this game real quick. A field goal from Baylor, which analytically, again, made no sense. I saw a tweet around this time of this field goal that Dave Aranda had set back analytics 20 years because he went forward on 4th and 5 like 2 drives earlier, didn't get it, but now he's kicking field goals with 6 minutes left. I think this was a surrender field goal. What do you think?
So, yeah, you asked me about this on Gauchos After Dark, and I kind of hemmed and hawed and was like, well, kind of a lose-lose situation. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. What are you supposed to do on 4th and goal from the 16? On the rewatch, though, I was just like, yeah, I mean, you're not going to win the game no matter what if you kick a field goal there.
Right.
You probably have a 1% chance to win the game if you go for it. And so it's like, are you going to get in the end zone from the 16? Probably not. But there's just literally zero upside, absolutely zero to kicking the field goal there. You're making a 3-possession game, with like 3.5 minutes left. And so on the rewatch, I was like, yeah, I feel like I have a better sense of it now.
And Baylor's next drive, what do? They go for it on 4th down for their own 14.
I don't know, man.
It doesn't make any sense to me.
No.
So you do score one more time because you take over the ball there. And that was a Baron Morton touchdown run. Little dangerous run there, you think?
Yeah, I'm not a lip reading expert, but he got back to the sideline, and it wasn't any coaches that I recognized. These are either like lower level staffers or maybe medical guys talking to him, and he's kind of warming up his shoulder, doing that motion, and I can make out part of what he says. He was like, I know. He goes, I'm all right. Yeah, I'm all right. I'm good. And so I don't think he re-aggravated on that play, but I think they were kind of like, hey, you're not supposed to be running the ball, And he was saying no, yeah, it's fine. I'm okay. It makes me a little nervous anytime I see him run or get sacked, which I think he was only sacked once all night, which is another, big deal. Although we didn't throw down the field very often. Like, we got the ball out so fast. I think it really speaks more to that than anything. But yeah, he didn't look like he was hurt or anything. I think they were just kind of like you and me and every other Tech fan. Like, as soon as he took off, you're like, oh, no, no, no. And
Yeah.
thankfully, I think he was mostly untouched on that play. But yeah, it makes me a little nervous, but it was a good run by him. So kudos.
Speaking of throwing the ball, Miles Price, 13 targets, 10 receptions, 90 yards. Baylor Cup, 2 targets, 2 catches, 2 touchdowns. Coy Aiken, 2 catches, 20 yards, and a touchdown. Dre McCray, Xavier White, Taj Brooks, and Jermaine Bradley all with 1 catch. Did you see the Medium post? Are you familiar with Medium?
Yeah.
The Medium post on Taj Bradley being wasted because the style of offense we run?
Jerron Bradley?
What did I say?
Taj Bradley?
Yes, I was reading Taj Brooks's
Okay.
box score there.
I haven't seen that.
I'll have to forward it to you. It's one of the dumbest articles I've ever read.
I mean, I think his production has undoubtedly fallen off, and I think we could target him more. But again, when you're running an offense now where running back one has 25 carries a game for 100+ yards, it's like that just means like fewer kind of looks for every receiver. Besides Miles Price, apparently,
Yeah.
And most of his targets, we threw one kind of bomb to him downfield that it was a good throw, I think, but just well defended by Baylor. And there was one, this is a beautiful throw by Morton, 20 yards down the field, but one hash to the opposite sideline. And the timing was such that like the corner was all turned around. If it's a split second later, the corner picks it off. If it's earlier, Price probably doesn't have his head around. He's not open. That was a beautiful, I need to like clip that video if I can find it again. But besides that, everything was 5 yards or less for Miles Price. And it was, I think this is an overused phrase when you're talking about the short pass game, but a complement or an extension to the run game. That's what it was on passing downs. It was 3rd and 5 or something. We didn't want to run it. We just threw to the sideline with Miles Price, and it usually worked. Like his yards per catch don't wow you at all, but I don't think it's designed to. Like he's catching the ball at or near the line of scrimmage on all of those and just getting what we need with it. So, yeah, like very, very few targets to go around for everybody else. Cup made the most of his 2 targets. I don't think anybody was targeted more than 2 or 3 times besides Price.
Nope. Yeah, well, I guess 4 for Aiken, but he had 2 catches.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think that's what I meant.
And then 3 for Jerron Bradley, but he only caught the 1.
Yeah.
And I faded Jerron Bradley last week on some player props. So he seems to be a good fade right now. Now he'll have a 100-yard game eventually. It's just what he does. But he's a far cry from, let's say, that Oklahoma game last year where he just went off. And everyone thought he would be the next great Texas Tech wide receiver. He still can be. I'm not writing him off, but right now he is off somehow, whatever it is.
Yeah.
All right. More thoughts on the game specifically before we move on?
Yeah, a couple thoughts. Austin McNamara, I think, punted 3 times. Not from terribly, deep in Baylor territory or anything. I think he pinned them at the 6, the 7, and the 11.
All 3 inside the 20, yeah.
So he is still really freaking good.
48.
I don't know how much was the average?
48.
Yeah, that'll do. 48 inside the 11 on all 3 that'll work. There go my dogs. They're saying hello to our listeners. I think I recorded all of Taj's touches, which was a bunch of carries and 1 catch. Here's how many yards he got on all of them in order, unless I missed one. 5, 18, 2, 4-yard catch, 16, 5, 0, 1, 5, 24, 3, 3, 6, 1 that he fumbled, 0, 2, 3, 5, 1, 8, 8, 1, 2, 8, 11, 2, 18, 0, 2, -1, and 5.
That's pretty good.
It's like nothing there is sexy. The 24-yarder is kind of sexy. But besides that, for his longest run to be like 16 or 18 yards, but to just do this all 3, 5, 8 yards at a time, I use this analogy all the time because this was born after the Wyoming game, but the Body Blows article that I write on Patreon, it was all about, hey, even if you're not breaking 50-yard runs, you have to throw those punches throughout the game to set up everything else to win time of possession. Like, let Taj go for 3 yards, 2 yards, 5 yards. That's fine. That's good football. And you had no knockout punches this game. Like, your longest pass was, 20-something yards. His longest carry was 20-something yards. You won this fight because you knew you were the better boxer and you took it 15 rounds. And you won by unanimous decision by just throwing body blow after body blow and playing good defense. Like, you didn't need to wow anybody. You didn't need your quarterback to throw 50 passes. You didn't need to score in 2 or 3 plays in, a 45-second drive. You didn't need to chunk it 60 yards down the field. All you had to do is hand off to Tosh for 3, 6, 1, 0, 2, 3, 5, 1, 8, 8. Like, that's all. That's what we thought was a winning recipe. And this was like the maximum version of it, like taking it to its extreme end. And I just freaking loved it because they had no answer for it. You're just wearing them down.
Yeah.
You know it's going to work. They know it's going to work. That's the demoralizing part. They're like, shit, we're going to line up again. Even when we think we have him stuffed, he gets 2, 3 yards. We have him stuffed, he gets 11 yards. They didn't have a negative run play until there was 4 minutes left in the game when the outcome wasn't in question at all, and that was -1 yard.
Yeah.
Like, they're not shooting gaps. They're not blowing anybody up, nothing. And you're just little jab to the ribs, to the waist, over and over and over and over again. And then the last bell rings, and like you win every single round, 10-9, 10-9, 10-9, unanimous decision. And everybody goes, oh, that's boring boxing. You're like Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather never knocks anybody out. He just plays good defense. You can't touch him, and he just jabs you the whole time. And it's like, I don't care. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be 50-3 for me. I don't need video game numbers from the quarterback. I'll take 31 carries for 150 yards from the running back, or 170 yards, whatever you wound up with. So that body blows analogy of just like borderline prophetic now in hindsight, but I freaking loved that. You started 3 for 9 on 3rd down. That's bad. Then you converted your next 6, and that directly correlated to you converting those drives, the grown-ass man drives when you pulled away, put the game away. Here's my last thought on the game itself before we get to the mailbag. I don't think Baylor did a ton to take their foot off the gas last year when they beat you by 28. I don't think that they ran up the score either, but they didn't do a lot to take their foot off the gas. When Miles Price had that punt return that with the penalty you got inside the 10, I was like, go score on these jokers. Run this thing up. Like, oh, it's disrespectful. I don't care. Run it up. But on the rewatch, there is something actually even more insulting about lining up in the victory formation on 1st and goal. I was like, you know what? That's actually even sweeter. So I'm fine with that too.
With full 2 minutes left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at the end, I was like, come on, run it 4 times. Everybody in the stadium and everybody watching on TV knows if you run it 4 times, you're going to get 6 more points. Everybody knows it.
Yeah.
So I was like, I kind of wanted to run up the score on Baylor. I don't care about the sportsmanship stuff. But on the rewatch, I was like, man, how embarrassing for Baylor. It's like, we were taking pity on you, showing mercy because it was getting so bad. And everybody on their sideline knows we could have had 6 more points if we wanted it. And instead, we line up in the victory formation inside their own 10-yard line. So they kind of cooled me off a little bit on the rewatch. I was like, okay, yeah, that's a fine way to end it. Go in victory at the Baylor 9-yard line.
Ready for the mailbag?
I am.
Let's do it.
You've got mail.
Mail time.
The mail's here. Found these in my mail bag.
Well, it's time to reach into the old mailbag here.
Enjoy reading the fan mail. Don't read it all at once.
Any mail for me? You don't have a Tic Tac, do you?
Do I get any mail?
No. Why not, honey?
Start bench cut these fathlete moments. A pick six, a fumble recovery, scoop and score, or getting to be the fridge on a 1-yard touchdown dive.
I'm starting pick six because it requires some hand-eye coordination that is always impressive from the big man.
Yep. Especially if it's a tip drill where you kind of get your tip up and then catch it and run.
I'll bench, scoop, and score. I love the amount of selfishness required because anytime a big man has the ball, there's a DB trailing who's like, hey, lateral it or hand it off. And when the big man just keeps it and scores himself, I love that. And I like the refrigerator Perry move, or better known as the Jalen Hutchings.
Yeah.
I like that too, but it's a tough cut.
I would cut that one as well. Unless it's a pass.
Yes.
I would add in the process. I would process, scoop, and score, and bench the post.
I loved that about the Jalen Hutchings sequence last year. If you recall, they tried to throw it to him.
Yeah.
And it was a little low. It was a tough grab for the big man. But they were so committed to getting him a touchdown. They're like, okay, he didn't catch it. Let's just hand it to him. And we score on the next play.
Who will beat UCF worse, Kansas football or Kansas basketball?
Man. I don't know.
It's a pretty good beating the football team gave them.
Yeah, football set the bar pretty high. But UCF is like pretty distant 14th out of 14 in basketball this year. So, yeah, I don't know. It'll be close.
We'll just say basketball just for fun. Was Steve Linton due for this game? Due theory. We laughed at him. Somebody asked last week, will Steve Linton get more than 3.5 sacks the rest of the year? We both go, ha-ha. Under. We'll see, because he hadn't done it yet. He got 3 last night.
Again, with like no help.
Yeah.
We weren't blitzing anybody. On one of his strip sacks, Miles Cole on the other side is getting held. It wasn't called. And we still got to the quarterback. Like, we're bringing 4. They've got 5 plus a running back if he stays in to protect. They're holding one of our 4. And Steve Linton still gets a strip sack. So I would have loved to see that a little bit earlier in the season. But I think our under on the 3.5 is kind of in danger. And I'm glad it is.
Yeah.
And we should have memed that on Michael Jordan going, and I took that personal because he played a really good game.
He did. We'll have to clip us saying under 3.5 and then put his sacks together in a kind of a reel.
Yeah.
Was Steve Linton due for – oh, I just said that. Am I due for a throw-up? Yes. Will Taj be a top 5 running back all time at Texas Tech? Somebody said something the other day, he's having an all-time performance. Tech has a lot of good running backs in their history. They used to do this running thing quite a bit.
Yeah, like Bobby Cavazos, Donnie Anderson.
Yeah.
Before we even get to all the Spike Dykes guys that, we won 2 Doak Walker Awards in the 90s with Bam Morris and Byron Hanspard. So I do think in the air raid era, he might be on a trajectory to be among guys like DeAndre Washington, Torian Henderson. His biggest knock, if this is his last season, his biggest knock that he won't have the career longevity and the career stats that guys like that had who started for 2, 3, maybe even 4 years, like Torian Henderson. But this season, we kind of blew it in the Oregon game. He probably could have run for 120 in that one if we let him. But if he averages 100 yards per carry, or 100 yards per carry, I would love that. 100 yards per game in a 12, 13 game schedule, he'll be up there in terms of scrimmage yards, all-purpose yards, and have a really good season under his belt.
So Ricky Williams, I believe on the radio show after, said – Ricky Williams didn't say it. They said it about Ricky Williams. Texas Tech's Ricky Williams, by the way. I think it's 6 games in a row with 100 yards rushing. So that's what Taj is striving for now. He's got 4 in a row. 5, 6 would be Kansas State, BYU. What can't Taj do?
So he can block. We had the reel on our Instagram last week of him blowing up Nelson Caesar in pass pro. We ran a jet sweep to Dre McCray, where I swear he moved this other grown man about 15 or 20 feet out of his way, flattened him. Yeah. So he can block. We don't throw to him a lot, but when we do, I think he catches it. And he can run for 100 yards on anybody when we hand him the ball enough.
Does playing bully ball suit the brand? This is the offense we were promised, yes?
I think so.
In the initial press conference? This is the offense we were promised, and it feels so good to have it rocking. Do you think bully ball suits the brand?
Yeah.
The hardest working, most competitive, toughest. I think I said that backwards.
That's what I envision more than tempo and throwing it to the sideline. When I hear about a tough football team, you might be a good football team. You might be able to outmatch a lot of people. But when I think tough football, I don't really think slinging it all over the yard.
Will you rate the defense this game? A Baylor beat writer called us thoroughly average. What say the Gauchos?
This Gaucho says there's a ton of cope.
A ton.
So Baylor is a fan base that does not handle losing to Texas Tech well. Yeah, I'll leave it there. But what I didn't realize is that you held them to 17 yards rushing because your roster is loaded with blue chip guys that only came here because of the Matador NIL collective. And Baylor, being a private school with wealthy donors, apparently is too broke to do that. But then I double-checked the roster, and actually your two starting interior defensive linemen, between them, might have had another Power 5 offer besides Texas Tech. Maybe not. I'd have to look. And then your inside linebacker that led the team in tackles this game and all season is a redshirt freshman who is maybe still a walk-on. It was at least formerly a walk-on. So this idea that, Tech's buying these players, how can we compete? It gives me whiplash from how they talk down on Texas Tech and Lubbock and like, why would anybody go to school at Tech if they could go to Baylor? Why would anybody coach at Tech if they could coach at Baylor? Our stadium is nicer than yours. Our team, our program is so much better than yours. Oh, you beat us by 25 in our home stadium. Well, how could we possibly compete with Texas Tech because of the Matador Club? And even if they are right, join us on Patreon, patreon.com/gamblinggouches. We give to the Matador Club every month, and we'll keep beating Baylor with that money. So I guess they're screwed until they come up with an NIL collective.
As far as the defensive rating, you had 17 yards rushing, Baylor. I mean, that's better than average.
Yeah, and we kicked your offensive line's ass rushing 4 all night.
Yeah.
Like, look inward a little
sacks?
bit. Yeah, 6 sacks.
So.
And at least 4 of those, I think you were only bringing 4.
Yeah.
You were never bringing like 6 or 7, giving them some really complicated blitz look. You just kicked their ass.
And what were they on fourth down?
I don't know.
One of 5, 1 of 6.
They were 3 for 9, 3 for 10 on third down at one point.
I'd have to look at the box score again. Team stats.
Can I also use this? This might be a good segue.
1 of 6. That's thoroughly average.
Yeah, worse than average.
Yeah.
Can we talk about the McGuire versus Aranda discourse now?
Do you want to finish the mailbag and then do it?
Sure.
All right. Question for Kyle. On a scale of 1 to 10, what would you rate McLean?
Like atmosphere?
I think like nuts and bolts. Plumbing, bathroom.
It's a good stadium. I'd give it 8.5. 8.
Teach us how to hate Kansas State. I'm not sure I have it in me. I don't know that Kyle does either. We'll have to figure it out.
Yeah, it's tough to hate on like the old Big 12 North schools. You know, like it's not an in-state rivalry. It's not I don't know. Like I don't dislike their coach. You know, their coach isn't off-putting to me. So yeah, I don't know. I'll think on it.
Zach says Bradford and Hutchings had 3 combined Power 5 offers: Hutchings, Kansas State, Bradford, Arizona, and Purdue.
They only committed back in 2017 and 2018 because they knew that in 2022 we'd have
Yeah.
the Matador Club.
Seeing as how Kyle elegantly put together stats showing how more effective the offense was when running the ball, and Rob has coined, I would say co-opted the running the damn ball phrase, do you guys get to claim even a small percentage of credit for Tech's recent improvement?
No, but
All the power, Kyle.
I saw a scoreboard pulling in the Waco. There's an 18-wheeler next to us, so I couldn't get a picture. But just like a double T, a state of Texas, and it said it's all West Texas, like right there in Waco. So no, we won't get credit for whether we originated or co-opted and stole and then promoted. Because run the damn ball, that was a thing long before us. But no, and we don't need credit. We just want to watch good football. That's all.
By the way, Minnesota up 1-0 in the bottom of the first. Jose Altuve bunts a single.
I was proud of the fight yesterday. You know what pissed me off? After we lost that game to the Astros, the freaking ESPN ticker said it was our 16th consecutive loss in the ALDS, and we haven't won an ALDS game since 2004. I was like, we just got past this stupid factoid. Like, let me live for like a week before we start trotting this crap out here again. So just don't lose 3-0. Like, win a game in the ALDS so that stat will go away.
That is hilarious. How many carries for Taj is too many? The number does not exist.
I think like 40, 20 per half is where you start to go, okay, he might be a little bit tired.
I want him healthy late in the season too, but
yeah.
You know what? I did start saying to myself in the fourth quarter, hey, we're up 25. Let's let Cameron Valdez run a couple times here.
Yeah. But 30 week in and week out does not faze me.
Kyle is a fan of some Minnesota teams, famous for snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. What is the most Minnesota moment that he recalls across any fandom? I don't know why they're making you relive this here.
I don't think the Timberwolves or Twins in my lifetime have ever been on any stage that would qualify. It's not one moment, but I've seen the Vikings lose 3 NFC championships in my time as a fan. So that always stings when you're on the doorstep of Super Bowl.
That last one, especially with the field goal.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm used to it, man.
Final question in the mailbag. Are you starting to believe in Texas Tech football again? I did. That there was never any wavering on the overall trajectory. I did start to worry on this season's trajectory. I'm back in on this season's trajectory, and I am more in than I've ever been on the overall trajectory, which leads us to Aranda versus McGuire. And that seems pretty clear-cut for me.
It does for me, too. And this is where I might have to cut Baylor fans some slack. Again, it was clear on Saturday that a lot of them were watching a football game for the first time in their lives. And so they do bring up the objective fact that Baylor won a Sugar Bowl, and they won the Big 12. They won 12 games in 2021. They did that with a lot of juniors and seniors who were recruited there by Joey McGuire. Well, weren't they really recruited by head coach Matt Rule? No, Matt Rule arrived in Waco from Philadelphia, where he coached at Temple. I think he's a New Jersey or a New York native. And he realized my greatest deficiency as a head coach at a Power 5 school in Texas is that I have no in-state network to recruit the talent that I need to win. And so one of the first hires he made was a guy named Joey McGuire, who was, king of Texas high school football, beloved by the Texas High School Coaches Association, all that. And they put together a heck of a roster that Rule won 11 games with, and later Dave Aranda won 12 games with. Since Joey McGuire has left that staff and brought James Blanchard, Brian Nance, and several position coaches with him, the results really couldn't be more divergent, save the head-to-head matchup last year. I remind people of this all the time. Head-to-head is a tiebreaker. Last season, Baylor finished 6-7 without a bowl win, and they finished below you in the Big 12 standings. Texas Tech finished 8-5 with a bowl win ahead of Baylor in the standings. So, yes, they did lose that game head-to-head, but it's not a tiebreaker scenario. This year is not over yet. Baylor's 2-4. One of those two was against FCS Long Island. The other was after completing a 28-point comeback, school record in Baylor football history. Seems like they're probably not going to finish that strong unless something drastic changes. I don't know if Tech will finish with a winning record or not, but I feel like we're somewhat likely now to make a bowl game. So the head-to-head is 1-1. I think you're going to finish with a better season for the second time in a row out of 2 seasons. And you're certainly recruiting a lot better than Baylor since Joey left. Some Baylor fans are in denial. And some Baylor fans are tweeting like their Barstool account is asking if it's time for Aranda to go, which is hilarious a year and a half after winning 12 games like they did. It's like if this great of a segment of your fan base is fed up enough with him to ask if he should be fired, and our fan base is pretty confident that we've actually eclipsed your program in a mere season and a half, on the heels of our worst decade in program history, meanwhile, y'all were on the heels of your best decade in program history. What does that say about the state of both programs and the job each coach has done since they parted ways? So you can bring up the Sugar Bowl all you want. Like, as soon as Aranda wins one of those and wins the Big 12 and wins 12 games without Joey, great. That's a fantastic card to play in this discussion. And, like, we'll see if Joey wins one with or without Aranda at Texas Tech. But, like, to this point, Joey has a winning record in conference play. He's 7-5 in the middle of year 2. Dave Aranda's in the middle of year 4 and has a losing record in conference play. And he's on course right now for his 3rd losing season overall in 4 years at the helm at Baylor. So I don't know how anybody can say with a straight face, besides one game last year, that Texas Tech is not in a better position and that they don't have the better head coach.
And Texas Tech is ranked 1st in the Big 12 in recruiting, 21st in the country. Baylor 11th in the Big 12.
Jalen Petrie not walking through that door.
He's not.
So I honestly don't know. I'm trying to give Baylor fans the benefit of the doubt when they bring up the Sugar Bowl. I'm like, do you know that Joey McGuire was the associate head coach while that was going on and that he assembled the roster that won you that game? They might not. And if they don't, that's okay. They can learn about it and then maybe reassess their position or maybe not. But that's how I feel about it. I'm extremely confident that if Baylor could reverse course a few years, they would probably hire Joey instead. And I also know right now if you ask Kirby Hocutt or any Texas Tech fan or any Texas Tech player, hey, we're going to trade head coaches straight up with Baylor. They get Joey McGuire, we get Dave Aranda. They would all say no.
To be fair, Kirby Hocutt said no to Dave Aranda several times.
You think so?
Well, at least in 2018.
I think Dave Aranda might have said no to our advances, which
I don't know. In 2018, it seemed like there was one candidate.
if he did, we just lined up in the victory formation at his 9-yard line. So,
yeah, true. All right. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, one of the most disappointing critiques that I've ever levied against this team was after the loss in Morgantown, when I said, okay, like you line up and you lose games sometimes, it happens. But I didn't see any fight except Mike Dingle, a true freshman linebacker. And I left our listeners with the Norwegian proverb, everybody wants to kill the bear, nobody wants to hold the axe. A lot of guys on the Tech sideline grabbing for the axe on Saturday. One of the keys to the game, or it wasn't a key to the game, it was on Joey's hat, the piece of tape that he always writes on. BYOE, bring your own energy. Road game, this team has heard all about how they can't win on the road, how they suck on the road. And they brought their own energy. There was a lot of guys flying around, fired up to be there to be playing football for 60 minutes and feeding off slowly but surely, just kind of like bleeding Baylor to death for 60 minutes. So I loved it. Like that was kind of a bit of a challenge in Morgantown. And I was unsure if this team was going to be able to respond like this. But a lot of guys not only wanted to kill the bear on Saturday, they wanted to hold the axe. And I'd love to see that fight from this team. I'm proud of them.
It's beautiful. You called it, or at least you asked for it, and it happened. It was a spirited effort, and it will go down as one of the best wins of the year, I think, especially because it's on the road.
For sure. And after the game to see it too, I don't know if this was a mantra, all week leading up to the game, but the help the bear kind of slogan or motto, I love that. And if you didn't see that clip, at the end of the game, Caleb Rogers in the locker room said, if you come upon me in the woods and I'm fighting a bear, don't help me, help the bear. Which is to say, if I'm fighting a bear, I don't need help. He does. And I love
Right
any
up your alley.
Yes. People doubted that a Red Raider could beat a bear in a fight, and we proved them wrong on Saturday. I love that mentality from any football team. Like, it's us versus them. We don't need help. They do. And we took it to them. And look, this team, this program did a lot of talking all offseason and backfired. And this time they went actions first, words later. And who knows, maybe internally they were using those mantras to kind of get focused, get fired up all week, and it came to fruition. It also goes back to what Joey was saying against Houston before the game. He was like, I know you love me, but I don't want you to tell me. I want you to show me by how you play that everybody in this locker room loves each other. And so I think maybe that's starting to click with them is like, yeah, help the bear and, all this stuff, 60 minutes of us. But we can't just say that on social media, like we've got to go prove it. And they have the last 2 weeks to their credit. So I hope to see a lot more of that. And I'm proud of them for holding the axe on Saturday.
It reminds me of the song Actions Speak Louder Than Words, an old Christian pop tune. Do you remember
They
that?
do.
Is that Reliant K? Who was that?
I don't know.
Actions speak louder than words. Anyways. All right. That's all I got. The San Francisco 49ers are absolutely driving on the Cowboys. So
All right, let's go check it out.
our twins. Let's
Our
go.
twins, baby. Let's go.
Dual
Love
wheel
y'all.
screens. All right.